Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by XCancer. Check them out at xcancer.com. Today I have a very special guest with me. I am joined today by Mr. Bill Busch. How you doing, Coach Busch?
Doing great, Adam. Great. I really appreciate you having me on, and obviously I'm a huge fan of having a chance to coach you at Nebraska and watching your career at Nebraska and watching you in the NFL and then seeing what a great father you turned out to be. It's very impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words. The rumors are that you're highly intelligent. I think I can now confirm that you are a highly intelligent individual after those kind comments, but I digress. We're going to have... I got some serious questions. We'll have some fun here today on the show. I kind of want to go backwards before I go to present day and then go forwards. So before last football season, you were tasked with being a special teams coordinator. Special teams had been something that had hurt Nebraska several times over the years. So when you were tasked or asked to be the special teams coordinator, how were you able to turn that unit around?
Well, the first thing that we started with was just the simplest of attention to detail. And I also started off with the number one thing we started with, which I think our improvement went up, was dramatic this year on kickoff cover. But we started everything, Adam, with kickoff cover, your kickoff coverage team, because the number one thing I always told them, I said, there's never been in the history of college football, there's never been a great football team with a lousy kickoff team. I said, that is who you are. That's your mentality. It's on film. I said, so we're going to be the best kickoff coverage team that we can be. And that's how we started everything. Then everything started to branch and splinter off of that. So we talked about every unit being angry. We wanted an angry punt team on how they protect and how they cover. We wanted anger in all positions on every our gunners on the punt team. Everything, we wanted angry people to play fast and put it on film. And the one thing I would tell them, I'd say, when I turn a film on and I watch a team, the first thing I always watch is their kickoff cover team. And if they're really average and they don't buzz through the end zone and they don't have great timing, I said, we're going to be in for a great day, because it's going to be a advantage Huskers in that spot.
Now, shortly into the season, 4 games into the season, you have your first bye week, and then you are asked to be the interim defensive coordinator for the rest of the year. So going into that bye week, did you know anything about the defense at that point, because you'd been focused on special teams? And what was the biggest key to improving the defense the rest of the season?
Sure. Actually, I didn't. I wasn't in the room at all on defense. I knew the players very well because I'd coached all of them in some aspect on special teams. Obviously, during games, if there were moments and during practice and different times, where obviously I paid very close attention with having 30-some years of Division I coaching, on defense. So I'm always intrigued with it. So I always paid attention. I knew everybody what positions they were playing, obviously, and those things. But I didn't have a lot of insight exactly with what they were doing. I could pay attention. I understood what coverages, different things they were doing. So with that being said, when I came in, the first thing I did was I talked about some things that I wanted to do and how I was getting and the defense and how I wanted to call it. So I wanted to learn as much terminology that was the same for those coaches and those players that transferred over to what I was doing, so I could talk in their language, because it was my job to learn terminology, not the players to learn new terminology. Mm-hmm. So I think that helped a bunch. But where I started off with that, and the number one thing was, I said, we're going to simplify. We're going to get our feet set in the ground. We're not going to double call things, so don't look over to the sideline for a second call if they look over. And we're going to eliminate bus across the board. That's how we're going to get ourselves better to start with. So the number one thing was to get our feet set, get our hands in the dirt, play fast, get our eyes in the right places on our key reads. And the next thing is in every individual period, we tackled and we tackled and we tackled.
Now, how much of a difference was there in how much you tackled in practice before to how much you tackled in practice after, once you decided to do a lot more tackling in practice?
Well, again, I couldn't tell you exactly what was being done before. I do know we did tackling circuits on special teams because we wanted to get offensive guys to tackle. Yep. and to teach them how to tackle correctly. So that was done during the special teams period. I feel it improved. I know the one thing, there's a lot of ways that you can tackle now just because with equipment and different things you can do wise without having live tackling to the ground, but you can simulate stuff really well on how you accelerate through tackles. And they have equipment now that allow you to do full speed tackles on a moving donut, on how to run through how your shoulder placement, your hat placement, so all along with safety. So I just think it's one of those things where it was like the biggest stress thing that we did. I think it helped. I know with the nickels and safeties for our individual period, if it was a 15, 20-minute period, at least 14 of the minutes were spent on tackling and different types. Not just one kind. There's so many different variations of what type of tackle you're doing. So we worked extremely hard on that facet of the game.
So, obviously, there was a lot of folks who were hoping you'd be able to come back, Coach, with Nebraska. That's not the case. Real quick, did you have a meeting with Coach Rule, and how serious or not serious did talks with you potentially coming back? How did those talks ever progress?
Well, it's just kind of the way the profession works. And, no, we did not have a serious conversation. We talked for maybe a minute or two. He was very kind to me, brought me in, talked to me. And but no, we didn't get into any discussion about football or me being retained. He has his guys that he had in mind that he wanted to have on his staff, and that's obviously his right, and obviously a decision that happens a lot. I've been on the other end of it before, the other end when I was coming in on jobs. So I am sure in no way, shape, or form am I livid with the current staff because I wasn't kept. I wanted to stay at all costs, but that is not their job to be able to keep Coach Busch on staff. That was my job to do a good enough job to be kept on staff, and that didn't take place. So with that being said, go Big Red, and I'm all behind Coach Rule and that new staff to do a great job because I love those kids.
So what's next for you? I know your family lives in Lincoln. Are you receiving calls from other teams? Like, What's the future hold for Coach Busch? Do you plan on trying to coach college football some more? Have you been in talks with other teams? What's the state of that situation?
Well, a couple of things. One that hurts me a lot, Adam, is that I have zero skill set outside of coaching. So I don't really have, there's really nothing to really lean back on. Like, well, I can always do this. There's not one thing there's not a bunch of employers calling me say, I got a spot for you. So I really feel that I've been coaching at a very high level in the last few years, and I feel I can still do that, and I can still add to a college football team. So I will look. I've still got an 8th grader, and you know what kids are. They're not cheap, Adam, like that. So you got to kind of continue to work. But leaving Lincoln would be very difficult. That's where we're from. It's where my wife's from. It's where the girls are at. This is where they're used to. They're in school. I've got a daughter that's at UNO in grad school. I've got a daughter that's a junior at Nebraska, and then I've got an 8th grader. And so it's very important for me to stay close to them because my wife and those girls are my life. So I will be a little guarded with what I have to do, but sometimes you have to work also. Yeah,
no doubt about that. Well, best of luck, whatever you end up doing, wherever you end up going, for sure. I know you're going to land on your feet. There's no doubt about that. I do want to backtrack a bit. That Iowa win, that Iowa finally beating them in Iowa on their home field, knocking them out of the Big Ten championship game ultimately, which is what happened. What was the feeling like in the locker room and amongst the players and coaches after that game, getting to carry that trophy, take it home? What was that feeling like after that game?
Oh, it was great. It was absolutely tremendous. I tell you what was great, though, Adam, was the weeks leading up to, and then the preparation for that game and the preparation and walk through that morning on the different things we had to get done defensively because they lined up at empty a lot. So we had different checks. One turned out to be a sack fumble for us. So we had different things we were doing. Those kids were preparing, and I've been lucky enough to be in Big Ten championship games, national championship games. They prepared that morning, that all the time that they were with me for those 10 weeks. And then that morning, their preparation was just like they were playing for the Big Ten championship themselves. And that is all on the assistant coaches, doing a great job on those young men to be able to carry that out. So they didn't just fall ass backwards into playing great. And so they were prepared for it. They were able to finish the game off in great form. And so extremely proud of them. I was extremely proud of how those kids, bought into allowing me to be their defensive coordinator. They didn't flinch, and they were outstanding. But that feeling in the locker room was great. And there was some really, 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 big smiles, bright eyes, tears, just because of how hard they'd worked, and that game meant so much to them. And they went out and played really well, especially in clutch times.
That's awesome to hear. You could see the play on the field. I think I even tweeted during the game that we look like the team that was trying to win the game to get into the Big Ten championship just by the way the two teams were playing and how we looked. And so I know some folks were like, are they going to be motivated for Wisconsin and Iowa? So that is phenomenal to hear. Now, anytime I bring someone on the show that's either coached me, been on teams with me, played with me, against me, whatever the case may be, I always give them, do you have a favorite memory of me, of coaching, or it can be embarrassing. A lot of people like to share embarrassing stuff. Like, is there anything from our time together that kind of sticks out to you that you might be comfortable sharing with the fine folks at home? Whether it be at my expense or not, I'm good with whatever.
Absolutely. First thing, I know that you're very humble. And I appreciate that, Adam. But the first thing I want everyone to know, because I was there live coaching you. Obviously, I was in the defensive backs, and you were up front. But your character probably outweighed your ridiculous ability, and obviously what a high draft choice you were. But your character and how hard you played and how hard you practiced, and I'd love to have the numbers, but I would bet you didn't ever miss a practice at the University of Nebraska. And so all those things stand out to me. But the thing that stands out to me the most in your physical talents has nothing to do with playing defensive end or defensive line, is that you had the ability to basically throw a football 80 yards in the air. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen done by a human. I've never seen a quarterback throw a ball that far. And Adam could throw the ball. You could throw the ball so well that we actually even had a discussion in the coaches meetings about if we ever had to have a play of a Hail Mary from 60 to 70 yards plus, could we get the tape off your hands to allow you to be able to go into the game to throw the ball? And so I don't know how you got that ability. I'm not sure how you were able to do that, but several times, that can be post-practice, you'd be goofing around, you grab a ball and throw it, and it was one of the most coolest things I've ever seen in my life. So it was really fun.
So I had heard rumors that coaches, if we need a Hail Mary, we'll grab Carriker. I didn't know that it was actually like discussed in meetings and like something that was a serious topic that could potentially happen if necessary. Oh man. So I grew up pitching and being a quarterback. So my sophomore year in high school, I actually threw a baseball 95 miles an hour. I ended up tearing a ligament in my elbow. I didn't want to get the surgery, so that's how I ended up playing football, but I could still throw a football because it's a different motion, so I could still play quarterback. That's kind of how that came about. I was actually higher recruited as a quarterback. I don't know if people know this. Nebraska, when they were stopped recruiting me at one point, they said, you're not good enough to play D-end here, so I thought I was going to go play quarterback somewhere else. But I never knew it was like a serious topic, like, hey, we might grab that big ogre over there if we need the ball thrown 80 yards. Let's get the tape off his hands quick and figure it out. That's funny to me.
Yeah, we did have a discussion on that. Now, you notice we never talked about putting you in on 3rd and 8. We left that for that.
That is a smart decision.
Don't get too high on yourself.
No, that is a smart decision. No, the arm strength was there. The accuracy was always the question mark. The ball was going 95, but it wasn't always going where it was supposed to go, which was good because it scared the crap out of the batters half the time, so it helped me. But
absolutely. Trust me, a wild pitcher is scary. Yeah,
for sure. No doubt about it. Hey, well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me, and best of luck in the future.
I appreciate you doing an awesome show, and just a huge thank you to the fans of Nebraska. They have been great to me and my family, and a huge thank you obviously to my family. But again, I'm a huge Husker fan, will be forever, and can't wait to see those guys play next year, and go Big Red.
All right. Until next time, Husker Nation, go Big Red, and always remember, throw the ball. This show is brought to you by XCancer. Join the fight at XCancerStore.com and support your loved ones, your neighbors, and cancer fighters all over the world and help them gain access to revolutionary treatments. XCancerStore.com has a wide variety of t-shirts and merchandise supporting a wide variety of cancer battles so you can show off the colors that matter. Proceeds from each purchase not only help those at home, but also cancer fighters in Tanzania, Africa. Check them out at XCancerStore.com.